Ritchie Valens, a music legend whose career lasted only 8 months, yet left an unforgettable mark on the history of rock and roll. From melodies rooted in Mexican culture to iconic hits like Donna and La Bamba, Ritchie broke barriers and inspired generations of artists. Tragically, his life was cut short by a fateful plane crash, leaving the world mourning what could have been. In today's video, we'll dive into the emotional story of Ritchie Valens' life, career, and lasting legacy. The morning after the devastating plane crash that claimed the lives of Ritchie Valens, Buddy Holly, and the Big Bopper, investigators braced themselves for the worst. Yet, nothing could have prepared them for the grim reality they uncovered. Among the wreckage was 17-year-old Ritchie Valens, a rising star whose promising career in music was cut tragically short by a fateful coin toss. Valens' time in the spotlight spanned a mere 8 months, but within that brief period he achieved a legendary status in the music world. Despite harboring a lifelong fear of flying, a fear rooted in traumatic childhood experiences, Valens chose to board a small plane in the midst of a brutal Midwest snowstorm. This decision ultimately led to his untimely death, leaving fans to wonder what might have been. Ritchie Valens was born Richard Stephen Valenzuela on May 13, 1941, in the San Fernando Valley of California. His parents, immigrants from Mexico, worked tirelessly as fruit pickers to support their large family, which included Ritchie, his 2 younger sisters, and 2 half-brothers. The Valenzuela household wasn't just bustling with people, it was also brimming with music. Ritchie's mother played a crucial role in nurturing his love for music by sharing traditional Mexican folk songs with him, often singing or humming melodies while working around the house. His father encouraged his curiosity about instruments, noticing early on his natural rhythm and creativity. The hardships faced by the family, including long hours of labor in the fields, also instilled in Ritchie a strong sense of determination and a belief in the transformative power of music as a way to uplift not just himself, but his loved ones. Traditional mariachi tunes from Mexico often filled the air, accompanied by flamenco rhythms and the soulful strains of R&B. This rich musical environment shaped young Ritchie's early life and ignited a passion that would define his short-lived career. Even as a toddler, Ritchie displayed an extraordinary musical aptitude. By the time most children were merely humming along to simple tunes, he was already creating music of his own. His natural talent didn't go unnoticed by his family, and when his father suggested he take up the guitar, Ritchie eagerly embraced the challenge. There was just one obstacle. He was left-handed, and the only guitar available to him was designed for right-handed players. Undeterred, he adapted and taught himself to play right-handed, a testament to his determination and raw talent. This adaptability and drive marked the beginning of a journey that, while brief, left an indelible mark on the history of rock and roll. Recognizing Ritchie's remarkable musical talent, his father encouraged him to try his hand at the guitar, hoping it would channel his creativity. However, there was an immediate hurdle. The only guitar available to the young musician was designed for right-handed players, but Ritchie was left-handed. For many, this mismatch might have been a deterrent, but not for him. With sheer determination and an eagerness to learn, he decided to adapt rather than wait for a left-handed instrument. Through persistence and practice, Ritchie mastered the guitar by playing it right-handed, defying both expectation and his natural inclination. His willingness to tackle challenges head-on was a trait that would serve him well in his future career. Not content with just the guitar, Ritchie's curiosity and ambition led him to experiment with other instruments as well. Among them, he taught himself to play the drums, an impressive feat that showcased his growing versatility as a musician. Over time, his self-directed learning paid off, and his musical abilities blossomed. What had started as a personal interest in music evolved into a serious pursuit. By his teenage years, Ritchie had progressed beyond the learning phase and was ready to step into the spotlight. Initially, Ritchie's performances were informal, limited to small gatherings of friends. These early shows gave him a chance to hone his skills, build confidence, and receive encouragement from those who saw his potential. Before long, word of his talent began to spread beyond his immediate circle. His big break came when he was invited to join a local band called the Silhouettes. This opportunity marked a pivotal moment in Ritchie's life, providing him with his first real taste of performing in front of an audience and working as part of a group. With the Silhouettes, he started to earn recognition within the San Fernando Valley, laying the foundation for what would soon become a meteoric rise to stardom. Ritchie Valens' growing reputation as a talented musician began to spread beyond his immediate community in the San Fernando Valley. His performances with the Silhouettes and his distinctive sound left a lasting impression on those who heard him. Among his admirers was a high school student who was particularly captivated by his talent. This student, recognizing Valens' potential, felt compelled to share his name with Bob Keane, a well-known producer at Delphi Records. While Keane was not in the habit of taking unsolicited recommendations from teenagers, the nickname used to describe Valens piqued his curiosity. Locals had started calling Valens the Little Richard of San Fernando, a moniker that suggested both his dynamic stage presence and his ability to excite an audience. Intrigued, Keane decided to investigate. Keane attended a weekend matinee performance at a movie theater where Valens was on the bill. For Valens, this was just another gig, but for Keane, it was a revelation. Watching the young musician perform live, Keane instantly recognized his extraordinary talent. Without hesitation, Keane approached Valens and invited him to his home. What Valens did not yet know was that Keane had a small recording studio set up in his basement, a space that would soon become the birthplace of some of rock and roll's most iconic hits. During the visit, Keane asked Valens to audition, and the young performer wasted no time showcasing his talent. It took only a short session for Keane to be convinced of Valens' star potential. On the spot, Keane offered him a recording contract with Delphi Records. With this new partnership, the pair got straight to work. In the modest basement studio, they recorded their first song together, "Come On, Let's Go." The title of the track had a special significance. It was inspired by Valens' mother, who often used the phrase to hurry her family along when they were running late. Valens incorporated her words as a subtle tribute, blending personal history with his burgeoning artistry. Keane and Valens were thrilled with the result, and the producer wasted no time preparing the track for release. However, before launching Valens into the public eye, Keane identified a challenge: the young artist's name. At the time, Valens was still using his birth name, Richard Valenzuela. While proud of his heritage, both he and Keane understood the need for a name that would resonate with a broader American audience. Keane believed Valenzuela might be perceived as too Hispanic for mainstream success and felt that even the first name Richard was too common, particularly with the presence of Little Richard in the industry. After some deliberation, Ritchie Valens was born, a name that Keane believed sounded fresh and marketable. Just days after recording "Come On, Let's Go," they released it to the public. The song was an instant hit, marking the start of Ritchie Valens' meteoric rise in the world of rock and roll. The release of "Come On, Let's Go" brought Ritchie Valens immediate success, but it also came with new challenges. With audiences clamoring for more, Valens realized his next song needed to be deeply personal, something that would connect with listeners on an emotional level. Drawing from his own life, he found the perfect inspiration: his high school sweetheart, Donna. The two began dating when they were just 16, quickly becoming what many considered an ideal couple. However, their relationship was far from simple, not because of Donna herself, but because of her father. Donna's father disapproved of Ritchie, seemingly unable to look past the young musician's background. What Donna's father didn't see, however, was Ritchie's character. Unlike many teenagers, Ritchie didn't drink, swear, or engage in reckless behavior. If her father had taken the time to get to know him, he might have realized that Valens was, in fact, an exceptional young man. Despite the disapproval, Donna remained steadfast in her affection for Ritchie. She was determined to stay with him, even if it meant defying her father's wishes. Their romance continued, but Donna insisted they keep it a secret. For Ritchie, the secrecy was frustrating, yet it inspired him to create one of the most iconic love songs of his time. Ritchie poured his emotions into the song Donna, a heartfelt tribute to the girl who had captured his heart. Before sharing it with the world, he wanted Donna to hear it first. In an intimate moment, he called her and gave her a private preview of the song over the phone. Donna later admitted that the lyrics moved her to tears. At the time, she didn't realize this wasn't just a love letter. It was a masterpiece that Ritchie planned to record and release. Neither of them could have anticipated the profound impact the song would have once it reached the public. With Donna complete, Valens needed a complementary track for the B-side of the record. He decided to take a bold step, turning to his cultural roots for inspiration. The idea of adapting the traditional Mexican folk song La Bamba into a rock and roll anthem excited him, but it also made him nervous. Ritchie worried that his Mexican-American fans might see the reinterpretation as disrespectful to its cultural significance. Adding to the challenge, Ritchie didn't speak Spanish fluently, even though the song's lyrics were in his ancestral language. Determined to honor the song's heritage, he turned to his mother's family for help, learning the words he needed to record the track. Once both songs were ready, Ritchie and producer Bob Keane anxiously released the record, unsure how the public would respond to a rock and roll song with Spanish lyrics on one side and a deeply personal ballad on the other. The results surpassed their wildest expectations. The single, featuring Donna and La Bamba, became a cultural phenomenon, selling over 1 million copies. These two tracks not only solidified Ritchie Valens' place in rock and roll history, but also showcased the powerful blend of his personal experiences and cultural heritage, resonating with audiences across the nation. Ritchie Valens' rise to stardom was swift and undeniable. His growing fame convinced him that his future lay entirely in music, leading him to make a life-changing decision. He dropped out of high school. This choice, however, wasn't without personal consequences. By leaving school, he also distanced himself from Donna, the girl who had inspired one of his biggest hits. Though Ritchie had envisioned marrying her someday, he was determined to pursue his dream of becoming a rock superstar. His passion for music and the overwhelming response to his songs made him prioritize his career above all else. Even with his songs topping the charts, Ritchie still needed to prove himself as a live performer. One of his earliest televised appearances was on Dick Clark's American Bandstand, where he performed Come On, Let's Go and captured the hearts of a nationwide audience. The performance cemented his place in the big leagues and expanded his fan base exponentially. Not long after, he participated in a local event near Los Angeles called the Teen Canteen Fundraiser, where he shared the stage with another rising star, Sam Cooke. While the show itself didn't go down in history, it carried an eerie foreshadowing. Both performers would meet untimely deaths. Ritchie's tragic fate was the infamous plane crash in 1959, while Sam Cooke's mysterious death occurred years later in a Los Angeles motel. Ritchie's manager soon booked him for the Winter Dance Party Tour, a grueling 24-day trek through the American Midwest. Confident about the tour's success, the 17-year-old Valens even put down a $1,000 deposit on a house before leaving. However, the tour turned out to be fraught with challenges. The first major issue was logistical. The person responsible for scheduling the city seemed to have ignored geography altogether, resulting in long, arduous drives between distant venues. The second problem was the weather. The tour took place during one of the coldest winters in recent memory. The combination of freezing temperatures and hours-long bus rides created miserable conditions for the musicians. Despite these hardships, Valens remained optimistic. Buddy Holly, the tour's biggest star, found the freezing bus rides unbearable and decided to charter a private plane to their next stop. Unfortunately, the small plane could only accommodate 3 passengers, leaving most of the musicians, including Valens, on the freezing bus. For Ritchie, this arrangement was likely a relief. His fear of flying had been deeply ingrained since 1957, when he narrowly avoided a plane crash that struck his junior high school, killing 8 people and injuring dozens. Just months later, another plane crash near his home killed everyone on board. These incidents left him with a lasting phobia, making air travel an unsettling prospect. However, fate intervened during a concert in Clear Lake, Iowa. Perhaps exhilarated by the success of the performance, Valens did something completely out of character. He asked for a seat on the plane. The decision came down to a coin toss with another musician, and Ritchie won. At 1:30 in the morning, he, Buddy Holly, and J.P. the Big Bopper. Richardson boarded the small aircraft. The pilot, Roger Peterson, was only 21 years old and legally certified to fly. Yet crucially, Peterson lacked the experience to navigate solely by instruments, a skill necessary for flying in the poor visibility of the dark, snowy night. Tragically, Peterson had failed a practical exam for this very scenario just 9 months earlier. Despite these risks, the plane took off, carrying Valens, who was terrified of flying, into a dangerous situation. Shortly after departure, the aircraft crashed, killing all on board. The combination of poor weather and pilot inexperience sealed their fate. For Valens, who had already achieved so much in such a short time, this marked the tragic end of his journey. The plane carrying Ritchie Valens, Buddy Holly, and J.P. the Big Bopper Richardson crashed tragically just minutes after takeoff. Investigators later concluded that the fatal combination of poor weather and pilot error had doomed the flight. By the following morning at approximately 9 a.m., authorities discovered the wreckage in a remote area. The small aircraft had slammed into the ground with such force that it was nearly unrecognizable, crushed into a twisted mass of metal tangled with a barbed wire fence. In the pilot's seat was the body of 21-year-old Roger Peterson, still strapped into his harness. However, the musicians were nowhere to be found inside the wreckage. The violent impact had ejected Valens, Holly, and Richardson from the aircraft, scattering their bodies across the frozen landscape. Hours passed before search crews could locate them, by which time the sub-zero temperatures had left their remains frozen solid. The chilling scene shocked even seasoned investigators. For the tour manager, the ordeal was especially grim. He was tasked with identifying the 3 young men, a process made even more harrowing by the fact that their faces were unrecognizable. The manager had to rely solely on their clothing to confirm their identities. The crash marked an abrupt and tragic end to the lives of 3 rising stars. Yet, in an ironic twist, the tragedy also cemented Ritchie Valens' legacy. Though his career had spanned less than a year, his groundbreaking contributions to rock and roll would continue to resonate with fans and musicians alike. His name became synonymous with the era's vibrant yet fragile brilliance, leaving an indelible mark on the music industry. After the crash, Ritchie Valens fans were left grappling with the shocking reality that their rising star was gone. In their grief, they sought to hold on to anything that could keep his memory alive. Recognizing this, Valens' manager Bob Keane recalled an old recording of Ritchie performing live. Likely the only one of its kind, he became determined to find it. The recording dated back to Ritchie's early days as a musician, when he had performed at his junior high school. During that concert, someone had used a rudimentary tape recorder to capture his performance. Keane eventually tracked down the recording and released it posthumously as part of a live album. Fans eagerly embraced the album, cherishing this rare glimpse of their idol's talent. In the months following his death, Ritchie Valens unexpectedly appeared on the big screen. Before the plane crash, he had filmed a brief performance in the movie Go Johnny Go, where he sang "Oh My Head." When the movie premiered just a few months after the tragedy, fans flocked to theaters to see him one last time. For those paying close attention, the song's lyrics held an eerie significance. One line referenced "No More Peggy Sue," a nod to Buddy Holly's famous song, foreshadowing the shared fate of the two musicians on that ill-fated flight. The tragic crash continued to inspire tributes. In 1959, Tommy D penned "The Three Stars," honoring Valens, Holly, and J.P. Richardson. Eddie Cochran, who had appeared in Go Johnny Go alongside Valens, later recorded his own version of the song. Strangely, Cochran himself would also meet an untimely death at the young age of 21, dying in a car crash on the way to an airport. Each time Valens' name seemed at risk of fading into obscurity. Moments like these revived his legacy, ensuring he was never forgotten. By 1987, Ritchie's influence on music was still undeniable. Filmmaker Taylor Hackford believed Valens' story deserved to be told on screen and began work on what would become the biographical film La Bamba. Finding the Valenzuela family to gain their approval, however, proved challenging. For 2.5 years, Hackford's associate producer searched tirelessly until, in a surprising twist, they discovered the family living just 15 minutes from Hackford's own home. When approached about the idea of a film, the Valenzuela family agreed wholeheartedly. They were especially pleased with the casting of Lou Diamond Phillips as Ritchie. Phillips developed a close bond with the family while preparing for the role, immersing himself in Ritchie's life and legacy. The film La Bamba not only introduced Ritchie Valens' story to a new generation, but also sparked renewed interest in his music, leading to a resurgence in his popularity. Lou Diamond Phillips's portrayal of Valens brought a humanizing depth to the young musician's struggles and triumphs, allowing audiences to connect emotionally with his short but impactful life. The movie's soundtrack, which included new recordings of Valens' hits, became a commercial success and further cemented his legacy in popular culture. For many, the film served as a gateway to exploring the origins of rock and roll and appreciating the contributions of Latin artists in shaping the genre. The scene depicting the fatal plane crash was particularly emotional for the Valenzuela family. Most chose not to be present during its filming, but Ritchie's sister attended. When Phillips was about to board the plane for the scene, she broke down, begging him not to go, as if reliving her brother's tragic final moments. It was clear that the family had yet to find closure, but that was about to change. In 1988, the families of Valens, Holly, and Richardson came together for the first time at an event commemorating the crash. A memorial statue was erected at the crash site, serving as a tribute to the three musicians and their enduring impact on music. This gathering marked a moment of collective healing for the loved ones of the fallen stars and for the fans who continued to honor their legacy. At the memorial event honoring Ritchie Valens, Buddy Holly, J.P. Richardson, and pilot Roger Peterson, the families of all four individuals met for the first time. This gathering brought together those who had been united by tragedy but had never shared their stories in person. The event was a step toward healing for everyone involved, highlighting the far-reaching impact of the crash on not just the music world, but the lives of those closest to the victims. The cultural significance of the crash was further immortalized through Don McLean's iconic song, American Pie, which famously coined the phrase, "the day the music died." McLean's poignant lyrics encapsulated the sense of loss and the void left by the untimely deaths of these young stars. The song became a cultural touchstone, ensuring that the memory of Valens, Holly, and Richardson would never fade from the public consciousness. Ritchie Valens continued to receive posthumous recognition for his contributions to music. In 1990, his legacy was solidified with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, a testament to his enduring influence despite his brief career. 3 years later, in 1993, the United States Postal Service honored him with a commemorative stamp, further cementing his place as a pioneer in rock and roll. Fans and supporters of the three musicians also found a way to keep their memory alive. The Surf Ballroom in Clear Lake, Iowa, where the trio performed their final concert, became the site of an annual tribute. Rather than dwelling on the tragedy, the event celebrated their music and legacy with performances that brought fans together. This tradition grew over the years, culminating in 2009 with a milestone concert marking the 50th anniversary of the fateful night that claimed their lives. Ritchie Valens' contributions to music remain extraordinary. In his short time in the spotlight, he achieved something few artists have managed: a two-sided hit record with Donna and La Bamba. Both songs broke barriers and resonated across cultures, securing his place as a trailblazer in the early days of rock and roll. Although his career was tragically cut short, Valens' music continues to transcend time and borders, played and loved by fans all over the world. Though Ritchie Valens left us at the young age of 17, his music and legacy continue to live on in the hearts of millions around the world. From the timeless notes of La Bamba to the heartfelt story behind Donna, he proved that even a short time can create a lasting legend. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel so we can continue exploring incredible stories from music history together. Thank you, and see you in the next video.